Welcome to the Dare to Share Challenge. I'm so excited to have you with us, and we have got another incredible guest waiting in the wings to come onto the stage. If you're new here and you're wondering what you've stumbled across, this is the Dare to Share Challenge. This is where we get real, we get raw, we get more vulnerable than we've ever been before. Why? So that you see the human behind the perception. So that next time you're looking up at the people that you idolize, that you watch and that inspire you, and yet you think they've got it all figured out. Everything's easy for them. Now you realize that they navigate, experience, and go through exactly the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions as you and I. They just don't normally share it. Until now. So that being said, let's welcome our amazing guest today. We've got the beautiful Sarah McBride. Sarah, welcome.
Hi Claire, thanks for having me on.
So excited to have you with us. And it's so nice to have a British accent.
I know, I did watch a few of the others. Oh, loads of Americans.
We stand out. Amazing. Yeah. I love it. So before we dive in, Sarah, I always like to ask everyone before we get to the juicy questions, what made you say yes to coming onto this challenge? Because for a lot of people, it's a little bit too stretchy, right? Like they love the idea of it, they love watching it, but to actually come on is a different question. So what was it that made you say, yes, I am going to go and bear all for the whole world to see?
Do you know what? I'm actually quite an open person anyway. So there was a few reasons, embodiment. So one of the things I teach in my work is visibility, and, you know, personal visibility being so important for our work. So I thought, well, I've got to start becoming more visible within myself. And I believe strongly in authenticity and, you know, being genuine. And I remember in 2017 speaking with another coach, and we were talking about, he used to do marketing for big events and big coaches and therapists and, you know, healing facilitators in the industry. And he said to me, one of the things he noticed was the lack of vulnerability. He said, you know, and we've got to create this new wave of being more vulnerable and sharing more. So I've kind of thought since then, yeah, just be as honest and open as I can. And, you know, I don't know whether you've noticed this, but for me, I've also noticed a rise in fake vulnerability as well. So people trying to almost like connect with the audience, but it's a facade. It's not really the fake. And when I, you know, obviously when I met you, and then I've looked through all of your work and all of the interviews you've done so far, phenomenal, incredible work, because it's genuine authenticity, rawness, and vulnerability. So for me, like, it was a no-brainer. Like the alignment was like 100% there.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. And yeah, I completely agree. There is a lot of this kind of fake authenticity where people think that they're being vulnerable, but really it's things that they're quite happy to share, and that's not really vulnerability. So I absolutely love and resonate with that. So let's dive in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
She's ready. So for you guys watching, I'm going to ask Sarah a couple of, on the surface, very simple questions. But the whole point of this is that the speakers and the guests who join me stretch their own vulnerability. They go a little bit deeper than they would normally go. They share a little bit more vulnerability than they would normally share, so that you see they're human, so that we pull back the curtains and we show more vulnerability than we've ever shown before, so that you realize you are not alone. So with that being said, the question that we're going to start with is, what does being a real and a raw leader mean to you, Sarah? And we're not just talking about in business, right? We're talking about as a human, an individual, a woman in your own right, that realness and that rawness. And I think I'm intrigued to see where you go with this, because I think a lot of it will tie into, again, that kind of fake authenticity. But what does that look like in your world, and what does that mean to you?
So for me, when we lead with vulnerability and rawness, we're able to communicate and connect better. So, you know, we're obviously all social beings. So communication is what I believe that, you know, as a society, we should thrive on. And I also believe that communication is important in every relationship that we have. And, you know, although our biggest relationship is the one with ourselves, how we relate to others through connection and communication, to me, boils down to raw and real vulnerability, because we have to lead with the heart, in my opinion, you know. And when we lead from that space, we can connect with people on an authentic, genuine level. So, you know, for me, I witness many relationships are built on trauma bonds rather than authentic values. And, you know, most people, they talk about the values, but they're not even connected. The values that are nice to have. You know, it's like, oh, that, you know, this thing here, they don't embody. And this is me not talking anyone down. It's just because as humans, it's hard in this society that we live in. It's fast paced, you know, it's built on technology, social media. It's very distracting. So people talk about values as a nice to have, but not fully embodying those values. And when we fully embody those values, you know, we know that we're building relationships on values rather than trauma bonds. So for me, real and raw leadership is leading with vulnerability, is leading with our values. It's leading with, you know, embodiment rather than the fake authenticity, the fake vulnerability, because then none of your relationships are real.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh, I resonate so much with all of that. And I just want to pick out, there was one thing that you said there about leading with the fake values, but not actually embodying them. And I don't know about you guys, but I can resonate so much with that, where in the past, you know, you say, you know, authenticity is important to me. And of course we believe it is, but there's that disconnect between believing it and, like you say, Sarah, embodying it. And that really is the bridge, I think.
Yeah. No, that's 100%. For me, it's how I live my life. It's how I choose to consistently live my life. And, you know, sometimes we get it wrong because we're humans, but it's about the, you know, the attempting to move towards that, you know, consistently and committing to that as well.
Yes, I love that so much. Commit to it. No excuses. Just keep trying. I love that. Okay, let's dive into the big question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sarah, today, what are you willing to dare to share with us? And before you dive in, for you guys watching, just so you know, I never know what any of the guests or speakers are going to share with us. I never give them any guidelines. They can literally take us anywhere that they want to take us. The only thing that I ask of them is that they make it a bit stretchy. They push their own limits. They get a little bit uncomfortable so that they go first and they show you the human behind the perception. So, Sarah, over to you.
Okay. So for me, and I watched a couple of your episodes, by the way, and the question around, will I be sharing something live or something from the past? And for me...
Yeah, I haven't even asked you that. Right, let's check. Yes. So which level of vulnerability are we going for? This is real and raw leadership, right? I'm not going to edit this out.
I did wonder that. So to be honest, it's funny because, and I watched people saying, well, I'll share something live because that's more stretchy. And I thought, I'm happy to share something live, but it's not as stretchy as something from the past.
Okay, let's do it. So are we going stretchy, which is generally in the past, but it's something that you've overcome, right? Or we've got extreme, which is the real time. It's the things that you are navigating right now that you don't yet have a lesson from. You're still kind of in the midst of it.
So although I've got the lesson, it's still to me extreme stretchy, because what I will say before I go into it is it's still left some visibility scarring that I am navigating today.
Hey,
so even though I'm aware of the lesson and I see it, it still doesn't mean, you know, the ego's not wounded and I've still not got the trauma. And I do somatic work, I do trauma on it, but I'm still moving through parts of it that I can see in my time, you know, today, real time.
I love that.
Yeah, but even though it is the past.
I love that though, because it's the past, but like you say, it's something that you're still navigating now as well. So perfect. Please do dive in.
Yeah, well, and it was actually 15 years ago. So yeah, Joe, I can't believe it's so long myself. So when I was 28, yeah, so 15 years ago. When I was 27 first, so 16 years ago, I come out of a really toxic, abusive relationship. And coming out of that toxic and abusive relationship, which I was in for like 8 years, there was a lot of violence. There was a court case which went on. And subsequently, I had a breakdown. So in that breakdown, I was 28 when I had the breakdown. And during that time, it was the court case induced. It was by that. I was not getting supported in the workplace. My best friend died in bed, just sudden death. So it was a lot to handle. And when I went through that, and at the time I was conscious, I was on a path of exploration of consciousness, which I have been, for many years before that. I was training in various therapies. So for me, how it happened to me, the not seeing the signs, not understanding how my nervous system was pushed to the edge and going through that breakdown, it's actually shaped who I am today, but it shaped my business. It shaped everything about why I wanted to become self-employed, because some of the things that happened during that time, were pretty horrendous. When I had the breakdown, I was put on loads and loads of medication, and, sleeping pills and, antidepressants and, anything that you can imagine. I was on maybe 3-4 tablets a day just to keep my nervous system in check and to be able to go to work. And I was a manager at the time in, a corporate, and I was not supported. And back then, we talk about vulnerability today. I went with vulnerability and shared, this is what's happening to me right now. This is live. This is what's happening. And I entrusted in, a senior manager, and actually used it against me to manage me out. And it wasn't even just using it against me to manage me out. They actually manipulated the figures of interviews and things like that as well. I found out, to get me out. And it made me think about how, how when we go through things, how we are not supported. And that's still quite a wound for me today, not just visibility, but being supported and allowing support in, because you become hyper dependent of, I relied on this particular job to pay me wages, to do whatever. And, and I was in loads of debt because my ex had left me in debt. He took everything from me. And during that time, something huge that I learned through going through that was about stepping into my power, because I felt like a victim. And I'm going to just say I was a victim to what happened. So this is not, me bypassing when you're in that, but I was then in the energy of being a victim. And being in the energy of being a victim, I realized how my life spiraled and how much I was losing from finances, from situations, and this utter chaos externally was just being created in my reality. And it was the biggest moment for me, I would say, the biggest turning point of me reclaiming my power and what that meant to me to reclaim my power. And the basis of my work today is empowering others. And, I do it through many forms, but it's empowerment. And I'm even careful with the language that I use, to not say to someone, this is it, this is the definite, my way is the only way, and all of this stuff that you see being pushed consistently. And I absolutely don't resonate at all with any industry leaders that push a particular way and that push you with it. And it's like, I'm right, you're wrong, and that was born out of that experience. But for me, having that experience was powerful because it enabled me to almost like when you're on your knees and you're in this mental breakdown and there's no support and you're suicidal and you're being medicated, you have to find a way and become independent and pull yourself out of it. And, maybe I can look back now, and this is something I'm navigating recently, and said, I probably could have let more support in during that time, So now I'm going to let more support in now. And, so I am still integrating lessons, even though it was a long time ago. Yeah. The lessons are still being integrated. And the visibility piece comes from, because, the threats that were coming from my ex was me wanting to hide, me not wanting to go out, me not wanting to be seen, out anywhere, get rid of my social media profiles because of the threats. So that then leaves a lasting visibility issue. And, I talk a lot about the witch wounds as well and persecution wounds. And for me, there's definitely past life threads, but there's also this life threads too.
Yeah.
And, again, something I'm still integrating to become more visible in certain ways. And as you will probably know, I've started doing ads on my work, which I've always, and to be honest, I've done incredible because I've built a business to almost 50 countries organically through referral, and in a few years. So for me, it's like, okay, but what is it? I was still hiding. So I knew that there was a part of me that was still hiding. Okay, if it's come from referral, it's come from a safe person, it's coming from a safe space. And I was cutting myself off from being found in my work. And, for me, there's souls assigned to work with us in this lifetime. But we have to allow ourselves to be seen for the souls to find you and vibrate with the frequency and hear you speak and say, okay, yeah, that's the person I know I'm meant to work with. But I was cutting that off, and it was coming through, the universe, God, it was coming through all these angles of, well, other people will just refer you, and this is what's going to happen. So either way, you can't hide from your purpose and your mission. But knowing, okay, this is why I didn't want to do paid ads and fear of persecution and all these different things is because past life stuff, but also this life and that particular incident of, it changed my life. It made me a shell of who I was previously. And when I say a shell, the joy, the vibrancy, how I was at that time to then what I became for many years afterwards as well, was like I was a completely different person. For a couple of years after that, I was going out, I was drinking a lot, I was like, it was, going to different cities and drinking a lot, going out the way and things that I wouldn't normally do because I wasn't even a big drinker prior to that. So noticing my behaviors, my patterns, the fear that it instilled in me of constantly waiting to be attacked, not wanting to be supported, because it's like, well, if I allow supporting, then they could take it off me because he took everything from me and left me in debt, So although it's a big event, for me, it's echoed in many areas. And although I felt like I'd dealt with it probably 13 years ago, it feels like there's been an integration of lessons ever since.
Yeah. Wow. This is so powerful. And I mean, I don't know how much you know of my story, but I resonate so much with a lot of it coming from an abusive relationship as well. But for you guys watching, I really urge you actually to watch this video again, because what Sarah's saying and what's coming out for me, the absolute most here is, and you said it at the beginning, this happened a long time ago, in the scheme of time. And yet there are still triggers, there are still lessons that are coming up now, even when we, kind of think we're healed and we think we're out the other side. You're still going to have situations where you're actually hiding from those lessons. And Sarah, this is so, so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it really is vulnerable. It is the absolute mix of past and present. And like you say, stretchy and extreme, because it's all one and the same with the story that you've shared, because it happened in the past, but the repercussions are still
and also
very much real.
It's like I created another life. So like when I was in it, and then when I got to I think I got to 29, I had a quantum leap where I thought, this needs to change. And this is when I got really deep into my practices in terms of, my intuition, my spirituality, my magic work, all of these things. I got really deep into that. And then I was like, I need to quantum leap into a completely different timeline because I can't be in this no more, in debt, fearful, victimhood, drinking, all these different things. So I did. And it was in a 6-week period, and I just quantum leaped, and I think a 6x'd my wage in a, I went self-employed. I then become a corporate consultant. I then traveled all over the country doing it, living all over. It was like I reinvented myself and stepped into the future version of who I wanted to be.
So powerful. I'm literally writing that down right now.
Like, I knew who I wanted to be, and I was like, there's a time, because if I can see it, there's a timeline that exists with me being that and embodying that. So I am going to literally cultivate all the actions, all the practices, embody the values to become that person. And I did. And again, that, although I've changed again, because, we're constantly, in a state of evolution, when I changed into that person at the time, it was like, wow, I broke free of the shackles. And then the thing of it is, I buried the past because I didn't want anyone to know that, well, now I'm this successful consultant. Well, actually, I had a mental breakdown. I was on antidepressants and I was made redundant in my job because I was managed out, and people even I was hearing things like, gossip things later of, people actually cruel things like speaking in the smoking sheds, saying, oh yeah, we got rid of her, she was nuts and things like that. The senior people in the business, so when you go through things like that, to me, it's what it's done, definitely part of my journey for a reason, because what it's done is made me so empathetic. Like, my integrity and ethics are the underpin my entire business. And it's the work that I've done with people, and how that I do it. It's people over profit every day of the week, irrespective of whether we're signed into work with someone, or whether someone does something to even me to not match that energy. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, it's people over profit, because I've been one of them people at the mercy of others.
Yeah.
And how I was treated, I believe, made me the person I am today, with the compassion and, the desire to help others, truly help others. And also, one of the things I do is become as a wealth catalyst. And the reason I've done that is because I had to do that in my own journey for me, and experiencing what it feels like to have no money and to be in debt, and to not eat because you can't afford to eat, or, skipping meals because you can't afford to eat, and moving back home, to your parents. It's all of those things, because I understand how that feels. There's a desire to help people to earn money in a conscious, ethical way, but because it's our birthright, not because let's be greedy, but because it's our birthright to enjoy life and to have more options and choices and freedom, So it's definitely shaped my journey. And obviously, one of the biggest parts of my work is also facilitating the healing of blockages and trauma within people, because when you have your own trauma, as you'll know, you become on a journey I need to understand more, I need to figure more of this out, whether it's mental, emotional, somatic, all of the different aspects that I've trained in and learned is because of my journey. But then that enables me to help so many people. So I honor that experience. I honor even the souls that treated me in the way that they did, because it's like, okay, you've just fueled my purpose and passion a little bit more.
Yes, I love that. Alchemizing it into your medicine, into your purpose. So powerful. Absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today. Can you please tell everyone, I know you've touched on a few things, but elaborate a little bit more about the magic that you do with your people, and tell everyone how they can come and get in your incredible world.
Thank you. So there's multiple options. So some of it is just the magic. Some of it is just, but my magic is not just, the lineage of the spell work, the etymology, the all of that, the esoteric. That's a part of it, from past life work to multidimensional work, all of those elements. But there's an element of doing that work, and then there's an element of doing that work specifically for wealth, and specifically for business, because I was a business consultant for 10 years. So I have a business and soul alchemy program, because to me, it goes hand in hand. I've never had a business strategy that has worked for 10 different people.
Yeah.
Because every one of those individuals got different needs. So they need the inner that matches the strategy. So for me, the strategy is the cherry on top, but the inner is the most important. So I do programs that combine that. I do programs that are just purely the magic, the etymology, but tapping people into the inner wisdom. Because one thing I lost in the past was listening to my intuition, because I was so disempowered in that relationship, that having psychic abilities since a child and then losing that because you're being manipulated and controlled, as you'll know, you lose your inner voice. So it's helping people tap into the inner mystic as well. And I run programs around all of those things. So yeah, and how they can find me is probably Instagram or Facebook. So Sarah McBride on Facebook, and Instagram is Sarah_ the Genius Alchemist, because I'm known as the Genius Alchemist because I help alchemize people's inner genie. And I talk about the genius, but it's really that inner genie where they can just go to the universe, go to the inner universe that exists behind their eyes, within them, and request from their inner genie what they want, and then allow that to come to you, and literally quantum leaping into new realities by doing that.
So powerful, so beautiful. All of those links will be in the show notes below. So if you're listening and doing multiple things, don't panic. You can come back, click on those links, go and get in Sarah's incredible world. Why wouldn't you, after listening to this Dare to Share? Sarah, thank you so much for joining me, for sharing your own real and raw leadership, your vulnerability, and for showcasing your human behind the perception. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And for you guys, I will see you all on the next Dare to Share. Bye for now.